What's up, guys? So today I probably have the last 30-second switch timer meta video that I'll be bringing to you unless this phenomenon comes back. And we're taking a look at, instead of a newer team like Deoxys Melmetal core, we're taking a look at the good old Shadow Victreebel Vigoroth Bastiodon core. To add to that, have some very exciting news from yesterday. Caleb Peng was holding a contest to determine best team, and that encompasses a lot of different things, but my original team of Shadow Victreebel, Deoxys Defense, and Bastiodon is actually won the contest. So I guess the gist of it was that the team popularized Shadow Victreebel. Shadow Victreebel got used a ton, and eventually Razor Leaf ended up getting nerfed because of this. So the team did make huge waves, and honestly, getting recognized by someone like Caleb Peng, who I respect an absolute ton, is probably the best builder in the Pokemon Go PvP community. It was absolutely flooring for me. Although I'm pretty sure only Caleb Peng picks that team, just because anyone else would, in their right mind, have picked Caleb Peng's own team, and contest kind of looks rigged if you pick your own team, I think. But yeah, the Skarmory double grass line, obviously, in my opinion, a little bit more influential, especially because that team helped shape this team, right? Watching the ABB style work was what caused me to change from Deoxys Defense to Vigoroth in the last place permanently. But yeah, enough about the team. Let's take a look at why this team might actually be a little bit better. Might be a little bit better with the 30-second switch timers. So, yeah, let's get into some video. And huge shout out to my Patreon supporters as always. Love you guys. So this team, you guys are probably very comfortable with it already. Sorry about those of you who I kind of had tricked into thinking I was never going to use Razor Leaf again. It's not as strong. There's a lot of Pokemon that you really do need to play around now with the nerfs. But it is what it is. So let's take a look at this. Why do I think, so as we watch the first game, why do I think that this team could be a little bit stronger in the 30-second meta? So I think because of the fast move pressure, Victreebel can take down a Pokemon in 30 seconds, even if they're spamming their charge moves. And Bastiodon can deal some pretty heavy damage, take almost no damage back, and build up a move and throw it to stall the switch clock if it needs to. And it's pretty much no risk. So it just feels like you can dominate these good matchups a ton more. And then, for example, if you do lock your Bastiodon into, so let's say they're running a double flyer in the back, which is pretty common, right? Actually, are we looking at one of those teams right now? We are. We're looking at a Pelipper and, oh no, it's not a Tropius, but this could have been a Pelipper and a Tropius in the back, right? Where you kind of need your Bastiodon to deal with both. Vigoroth can't beat Pelipper, which will be the switch in, and it doesn't have a great matchup versus Tropius. So now what can happen is you can switch your Bastiodon into whichever flyer comes in first, deal quite a bit of damage to it. You can use shields against Pelipper. It's going to be the most damage you're ever going to take on that Bastiodon, and then you can just switch back out to your Vigoroth afterwards and reset your orientation. Before, you would have to let your Bastiodon get farmed down by whatever their lead is. Galarian Stunfisk maybe going to be able to take out a huge chunk of that Bastiodon's health, probably take it out even, because you're not going to want to shield an Earthquake. And then now you can just reuse that Bastiodon. So anyways, let's take a look at that. So this is against Butters, one of the best players in the world. And we're going to have hard counter city on him. Honestly, I feel pretty bad about this game. We're having such a nice conversation on Twitter. And then I go and hard counter him with Shadow Victreebel, which is a Pokemon he hates. I honestly did really feel bad about this game. But this just goes to show kind of like how the switch timer allows this team or ABB teams to be a little bit more hard counterish. So even if he switches back, I can switch into my Victreebel, and I'm able to take this Azu out before anything else comes in. And now it's Alolan Grimer, which is a Pokemon that honestly Bastiodon doesn't have the greatest matchup versus if I let it get some energy. So in the previous game, my Victreebel would have been farmed down by this and probably had a ton of mud bombs thrown at my Bastiodon. But with 30 seconds, I'm able to get out and avoid my Pokemon from getting farmed down in these advantageous matchups. We see a Tropius lead here. I switched before seeing Razor Leaf. This is because I'm not running Sludge Bomb anymore. Kind of sad, to be honest. But I'm too lazy to TM Acid Spray back to Sludge Bomb, and I should have my Shiny Mew coming soon, so I kind of want to save the TMs for that as well in case the IVs are anywhere near usable. I think if anything, talking about the movesets of Victreebel in this almost unwinnable matchup. Tropius into DD counter switch is it's pretty much game over at this point. So I feel like I can talk about the moveset a little bit. I really do want to try Leaf Tornado as that second move. I think that it does apply a lot of pressure. It really helps in the Victreebel mirror match. And it helps in those matches when you know that they're going to be shielding that Leaf Blade. And that Leaf Tornado debuff might actually help survive something like the Pelipper matchup. But it is what it is. I try and wiggle out of this one. If I had Sludge Bomb, I have a win condition, right? So I'm going to let the Leaf Blade through. And we're going to go for the bait. This was just to see if I would have won if I was running Sludge Bomb. And the answer is no, they shielded anyways. So there was pretty much no chance that I was going to win this. And honestly, I probably should have saved everyone a little bit of time here. I think I'm going to try and play around the switch clock, see if stuff like this is possible, right? If you don't try, you're never going to find out what is possible and what isn't. I'm building up to a ton of energy. My goal is to come in with the Victreebel, get my Leaf Blade off. But for some reason, even though I click on my button, it doesn't. Not only doesn't CMP time me, but it also doesn't actually throw my move at all. And I've had this problem a couple times. Actually, I took out a clip in the middle here. All 5 of my sets were positive yesterday with this team, so kind of a pretty good sign. But I wanted to show the beginning and the end, so I did take out the middle clip. There was a little bit of lag in that one as well, and a lot of the games were not very close. So not very exciting gameplay and not a very good representation on how this is all going to work. So we see a Jellicent lead to Galvantula switch in. I am fine switching my Bastiodon. I really don't care if I get lunged. If they want to switch out after debuffing my Bastiodon, that's perfectly fine, right? Because then it'll lock them into another Pokemon, and that's way better for me. So in this case, Jellicent comes back in, and I'm going to do the strategy that I mentioned earlier. I am going to switch on my Bastiodon, because I really think that if they have a Galv there, it's probably like an Altaria or a Skarmory or something in the back. And I really need to take advantage of that. And I don't want my Vigoroth to deal with that Altaria after this Bastiodon goes down. Because I might have to use a shield on Shadow Victreebel to take down this Jellicent. So I definitely want my Bastiodon alive. I'm going to deal as much damage to this Jellicent as possible, because I want it to be low enough that Victreebel only has to spend 1 shield to take it down, or that Victreebel can actually take a Shadow Ball, and then Bastiodon can take it down. So we'll just get to this Body Slam, and they're actually counting my moves, which is pretty incredible. But I got to make a decision on what Pokemon to go in. We're going to go in with Victreebel, and in this case, I don't know if I decide to shield. I do decide to shield. So we're going to keep that alive, and here we have the Talonflame come in, so I was kind of right. It was a Flyer, and a Flyer that double resists Grass at that. So I'm in a pretty tough position here. I have to take the first Flame Charge, because it is very likely that they would get to a second Flame Charge. If I didn't, and the second Flame Charge is going to do more damage. So I just try and get this Talonflame low enough that we can take it out with a couple Razor Leafs, and look at that Incinerate damage. You do not want to be facing a Talonflame with a couple boosts with Shadow Victreebel. Oh, good thing we get rid of that guy right there. That was closer than it probably needed to be. Well, Skarmory would have been much easier. But here we go with the Mew lead. Mew pretty common in this 30-second switch timer shenanigans, just because Wild Charge and Overheat if you want to run it. But at least one or the other is why it's so good. I shield the Surf. I'll shield the Surf. And in this scenario, you can even go for an Acid Spray in the past, but with the 30-second switch timer, they just clear their debuff. So I throw my move, which is a little bit of a mistake. Because I throw my move, the switch timers can be out of sync a little bit. If they throw 2 Foul Plays, I'm almost certain they will. So now the switch timer will be up for them, but not for me. For a couple seconds. They switch, well, and luckily I'm at the move already. So I install a switch clock a little bit more and get back out. And obviously this one is just a Surf. Not allowing that Mew to get to a Wild Charge is pretty important, so honestly, banking your energy in this meta is more important than it's ever been before. Just because you can use it to stall a switch clock if you get your move caught, or you can use it to snipe and make plays, and that's really how you end up getting shields in this game. And people have to save shields for those snipes. So it does get very dynamic near the end. We're going to see a nice little 4-set here, bump us up to 2840. We're for sure on the leaderboards when they update today. I'm not 100% sure at the point of recording where we are yet, but we should be for sure on leaderboards, unless I mess up gameplay today before then. So we see a Gengar. This is not a Pokemon I've seen an absolute ton of, but it's a Pokemon where you have to play very specifically. So now with the Razor Leaf nerf, you don't just KO Gengar with only spending 1 shield. I usually like to catch the Shadow Punch on Vigoroth. Remember, it's on the 9th Shadow Claw, 5 for the first Shadow Punch, 4 for the second Shadow Punch. And once you eat up that energy, it's a whole new world. And then this Pelipper switch in. I don't know what I'm doing with this catch. I had a full Leaf Blade. I think I forgot that I had the Leaf Blade. I wanted to save my Vigoroth. And because the Gengar is down, I feel like there's probably another Flyer or something in the back. There's not much else I'm going to need this Victreebel for. But I really should have gotten that Leaf Blade off. That is for sure. But we'll see what's in the back. It's Alolan Ninetales. It's Charm. So I guessed wrong. This would have been great to have the Victreebel for. But you can see this matchup, even though my Bastiodon is at like 15% health, Armtails versus Bastiodon is pretty dominating. So we'll take this matchup anytime we can. It just will be very embarrassing when we do eventually get Charmed down. Fortunately, they swap at the same time as me as I'm trying to snipe this Alolan Ninetales. We're going to take out that Gengar, despite it actually being dry and me being able to take full advantage of it. But this matchup is too dominating. Bastiodon's still able to pull this win. I do think I get Charmed down by Ninetales with 2 shield later on in this series of sets, but hasn't happened. It didn't happen there. So Bastiodon safe another day. These Umbreon switch-ons are increasingly common, extremely annoying for the team, to be honest. And a lot of the time, I like to bring in Bastiodon against Umbreon after weakening a little bit, because Vigoroth, well, there's usually a Scrafty in the back, right? Or not usually, but there's a lot of times there's a Scrafty in the back, and because of that, you really need to save your Vigoroth for that, because Bastiodon gets absolutely wrecked, and Vigoroth can hit back a lot harder. So we'll see that in a game coming up as well. Yeah, so Sirfetch'd comes back, able to eliminate that. Victreebel able to take this out without charge moves, right? So it's much faster. And I've decided that, hey, maybe we want to save Victreebel here. No, we don't. We want alignment. Bastiodon dominates Skarmory, and we know they have an Umbreon. My only regret is that I had my Bastiodon get very low from this Umbreon in the first place. And then there's a reason I'm not throwing Body Slam as well. I'm trying to get this Umbreon as low as possible, and I'm watching the switch clock, right? Because we switched at the same time this time. I see right now that the switch clock is going to be almost up, so I'm trying to spam that Body Slam before they can switch. But fortunately, my buttons don't show up, and they're gonna be able to burn a shield there on their Skarmory. And this is what I'm talking about with the snipes, is they keep switching in with a move loaded. When you're on the back foot, that's what you want to be doing. And unfortunately, because they're switching and I'm throwing moves to reset the switch clock, the same thing is happening over and over. So this was the issue I had in the Inadequates battle. This time I'm smart enough to bank moves and kind of take out Pokemon instead. But it's still a pretty easy battle for me, unless this Skarmory is running Flash Cannon. And even if it is, we have a shield. I'm assuming it's just Sky Attack so they can throw 2, but the second one won't take you out anyways, because Bastiodon is a monster, especially against those flying types. Yeah, I had a lot more fun playing with this specific team in the 30-second switch timers, just because it felt like I was still playing the original Pokemon Go PvP. It felt like I could still trap and take down Pokemon, and a lot of times I could even get out scot-free. Deoxys Defense lead. This is one that was severely changed with the Razor Leaf nerfs. So if you look at the pace I'm taking down this Deoxys, they're at 9 right now. They can get to 3 Psycho Boost, which is an absolute pain. I attempt to catch on Vigoroth there, but I fail. And now they bring in their Azure, so at least it's not something like Deoxys in the back. Wait, Deoxys in the front. It can't be in the back too. Okay, I'm just having Deoxys nightmares. The Pokemon is a little bit too strong in this meta, but I do let this Vigoroth take a little bit of damage here. And I switch back to Victreebel. Try and snipe that Azure, get it much lower. I'm going to shield a Psycho Boost. And I will have to take another Psycho Boost. So you're going to see how much damage this does. Oh, it does take you out. Whoops. I gave some bad advice to some people the other day. But unfortunately, I don't get alignment out of this. Deoxys Defense lead is pretty hard. And we're just going to have to top left out there. I think it depends what residual damage you've taken. Seen Victreebel live the second Psycho Boost before. But it may have been IV dependent or not very close. Skarmory lead, we're going to get right out of there, right? This is not something you want to see. And I'm going to punish this Skarmory. Because it's staying in to try and weaken my Vigoroth. Guess what? Half the switch timer's gone now. So by the time it throws something, I have switch advantage. You can't just chip and dip anymore. If you don't have a hard counter to their switch, it's kind of over. So we're going to go back in to Victreebel versus Meganium. And this is what I want, but unfortunately I'm their bait wrong. And we're in the exact same position that we were in just a little while ago. I still have my Bastiodon for Skarmory. So there is hope that whatever they have in the back cannot deal with this Bastiodon. At this point, they're getting to this Frenzy Plant. I believe I can outpace them to 2 Body Slams. I throw here. They let it through actually and just let me farm down a little bit. Skarmory obviously is going to come back in and we're going to try and catch a move. It didn't work. But this is what I'm talking about with this snipe play. So I'm on the back foot, right? They have switch advantage. I want to get this Bastiodon back up against this Skarmory. What do? I got to get this flamethrower off. Because once I get this flamethrower off, they're going to lose their last shield. And it's unlikely my Bastiodon will make it to another flamethrower if I stay in. So because I banked that move earlier on Vigoroth, and that's more important now than ever. And I wait a little bit just to make sure they're not switching at the same time as me. We're going to get this Body Slam off. And now it doesn't really matter. This Shift Tree will never make it to another Leaf Blade. My Bastiodon is incredibly safe in that scenario. I don't really have to... I don't really have to even worry about farming the Skarmory down. That's why I'm just happy to throw as much energy as I can to try and take it out, because this Shift Tree is going down in 1 smackdown and there's no way it can get to that next Leaf Blade. So pretty safe game there, but that just shows how you can come back from that rough lead if they don't have a super hard counter on the switch. Meganium into Vigoroth, a pretty good match, I think. It's close, but with they need to chip down a little bit. They just can't deal with that anymore. So we have a Clefable switch in. At this point, I am pretty sure it is Charm Hole, right? So there's a couple different ways to play this. I can just kind of line everything up over and over. But I decide to farm all the way down because I can on Bastiodon. And because I believe it truly to be Charm Hole, I don't want to switch my Vigoroth out here because I assume it is a Wigglytuff. And Vigoroth is decent against Wigglytuff. Especially if I can take shields out, and Shadow Victreebel will deal a ton of damage to it as well. But I just wanted to keep alignment here, so we're playing this the old way. I could have switched out to Vigoroth against this Medicham and saved my Bastiodon for this other Charmer, which he would have absolutely dominated, but I was a bit scared that this Medicham would be able to farm Vigoroth all the way down and force me to use both shields on Victreebel. In hindsight, it probably would have been fine, and it would have been a good show of how to kind of abuse that switch timer. Yeah, so Victreebel able to take out this Alolan Ninetales before it gets to another Weather Ball, which would have been a disaster, as this Medicham might have been able to get to another move. But we're going to be okay. Double Charm down. Tell me now, is Razor Leaf still the villain if it's taking out Double Charm? Maybe. Depends on the person, I guess I would say. Yeah, made some solid gains on this day. See where we get to. Mew lead 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this Mew only went to 7, unlike the last Mew who went to 8. So it's not going to be a flame charge. I'm going to let it through. Could have been a wild charge, but even if they wild charge you, you still take them out. And they try and make a snipe play with their Skarmory. So this is where we played a little bit differently. This is a very familiar scenario for those of you who played this team before. In the past, you've all just farmed all the way down. But guess what? This guy's just going to switch out his Skarmory. It's going to be very annoying. So as my switch timer is wearing down, I'm going to throw the flamethrower. I want to eliminate the Skarmory. And he actually shields it. So as I expected, he switches it out. I should have probably been ready for the switch. But I go back in with this Vigoroth, taking no damage from the Shadow Clouds, get a little bit of extra energy ready to go. And see, with this, he's now sacrificed his Mew, which was very low health, for realignment of his back line. And it's a Scrafty, so this is kind of where I want to see it though, right? I feel like they should have stayed in with their Skarmory, because this Scrafty is a bit of an issue for my team. I don't have shields. I actually decided, or almost decided, to make a sack swap there onto the Vic, but the amount of damage I can get out of the Vic is kind of important. I had to make a razor fast switch there on the Vic to get that out from underneath that Skarmory to preserve that Leaf Blade. That Leaf Blade is going to be incredibly important. I know I have this flamethrower ready to go on the Scrafty. And the reason I'm not switching right now is I don't want him to get countered down by catching a counter. If this guy wants to throw Power Up Punch at Bastiodon, that's fine. I'll win CMP with my Victreebel. That game was over as soon as I was allowed to switch out with a little bit of energy. The first place. All right, this next game we have Victreebel versus Tropius, so not a great situation. Like I said, ABB does seem to be a little bit more rock, paper, scissors than it was before. So losing this lead, while not the worst thing ever, is not great. I lagged there too. Otherwise, I think I would have thrown a body slam just to kind of keep in there for a little bit longer. Get the switch timer reset. But then they switch in Azu. I'm able to stall that and come in with Victreebel. We have our switch timers out of sync. I actually didn't want to shield this because they only counted to 6. Or they went up to 6, so it's likely a play rough. Tropius comes in. I'm going to spend my energy to get switch advantage here. Sorry, to stall the clock. And we're going to bring in Bastiodon. And we do have a case of offset switch timers now. It's pretty weird with the new switch clock. And they're using their moves to stall the switch clock. And then I will use my moves to stall the switch clock. Or no, I won't. I'll just get right in. This was a pretty unfortunate switch though, what I just did here. Because I lost so much energy instead of throwing my moves. And now I put myself in a pretty bad position. What was a pretty easily winnable game. Just due to the fact that I won back switch advantage by getting them to stall the clock long enough is now very, very difficult and almost unwinnable. They still have their Umbreon, which is a big deal. Umbreon's such a monster, and they still have their Azu to catch. So their win condition is catching a move on their Azu, which they do. But the fact that I overfarmed by 1, very good catch by them. And they just need to bank a move for my Victreebel coming in. Yeah. Like I said here, I'm able to burn this last shield. If that Stone Edge had gone through, this would have been a victory. So rip. Yeah, a little bit of misplay on that one. I just needed that body slam. I just needed them to not catch. I made a lot of mistakes. Actually, I believe this is the game where I got rated by Caleb Peng, and they were talking about the award. I was a little bit flustered, so I guess it showed in hindsight watching back that game. We have a Galarian Stunfisk lead into Pelipper, and we're going to go into Bastiodon this time. In old games, you would just let this Pelipper wail on you with Weather Balls. Right? But instead, I think we're going to be waiting for them to switch into their Medicham, which is great. I thought there was a Tropius in the back, and I would have played this game completely differently. But taking out this Medicham is absolutely huge. You know what? I can deal with the other Pokemon on that team pretty easily, right? So the Pelipper is very low. We have a G-Fisk. I got my Vigoroth for that. Yeah, they just put the Pelipper into the grinder right there. Oh man, what did this Pelipper ever do to you? But we'll get this Leaf Blade off and then switch into, or let the Vic go down at this point. Switch into Vigoroth and have Vigoroth comfortably win this in the one shield with the slightly damaged G-Fisk. I fail my bait. I don't know what I'm doing. I throw before I get to the Bulldoze. Don't do that. But body slam damage, and my opponent's counting too, so that's even more embarrassing. But we're able to take this guy out. This Stunfisk out at the very end. It's not too stressful of an issue. I still have shields. And really, I think they need to get a bait off and have a bunch more health for that to work. So next game against Chumpaletta. Very good battler. We have another G-Fisk lead. We'll see how they like to play this one. Chumpaletta respects the count. Actually counts to 8, so we got a shield, even though we know it's 99% a rock slide. I think it's kind of a wash anyway. Sometimes you do want to shield your Victreebel. Preserve the health in case there's a fighter in the back, because there's an increasing amount of fighters in the back. Team, and once again, go to 8. They're going to switch. It's Cress. So this is pretty interesting. Cress is a Pokemon that Victreebel actually has a decent matchup against. The charge moves don't really do anything because it's not running Future Sight. But what I'm doing is I'm just absorbing this energy and these Psycho Cuts on Bastiodon, waiting for their G-Fisk to come back in. I've got a move now, so it's not too big of a deal, but this was a mistake. Instead of doing this, I should have just swapped into my Vigoroth and taken down their Stunfisk. Gotten a ton of farm. Because now instead, I am in a little bit of trouble. I end up throwing my Leaf Blade here. What a disaster. Yeah, very poor play because I stall the switch clock enough that Chumpaletta is able to come back in instead of taking a huge amount of damage off of this Machamp. I now have to deal with this full HP Shadow Machamp in the back. It doesn't have any shields. And it's able to snipe down my Bastiodon before it's able to get to that move. So now at this point, it's pretty much game over. With an energy lead, it's able to get to cross chop and take down Vigoroth. So actually, yeah, the 2 games I did lose in this set were completely my fault. My team did give me a chance to win every single one of them, but looking back, especially on the first game, I made some pretty terrible mistakes. This one, I made a couple small mistakes that I shouldn't have made, but that's just getting used to the switch timer. So we're gonna see a Hypno lead. Not a lot of good leads in this set. And Hypno into Scrafty, right? So this is Hypno Double Dark, and I'm gonna show you how to beat this team. It should be impossible. If they play perfectly, you're not gonna be able to win this. But if they don't, they make a little mistake at the end. We go down a shield for 2. The Vigoroth versus Scrafty matchup, for example. Then it is winnable. Then come back in with Victreebel here. And I kind of have to hope that they're not getting to the foul play. So I wasn't really counting on stream, but we're able to take Scrafty down, the biggest threat to the backline. Hypno comes back in. And the win condition, as I've said many times in the videos before, for Victreebel versus Hypno, is that you need to get shields down, and you need to be able to get a Leaf Blade off. Well, that's what we're going to do here. We're going to stay in this Umbreon versus Bastiodon matchup for as long as we can. We get the shield, and we're going to switch out and try and surprise him. And here we go. Leaf Blade, are you going to be enough? No, not enough to take out Hypno, but the resultant Razor Leaf damage would have ended in a tie here for this matchup, which is a perfect scenario for me. Instead, I will just let Victreebel go down. And actually, you know what? This is an even better scenario. I get a little bit of farm on this Bastiodon, a little bit of a head start. 2 shield Bastiodon versus Umbreon. Yeah, this one's over. My opponent realizes it and saves us both about 2 minutes of time. Not XL Bass, but even regular Bass is pretty tanky, and we're going to win 3 out of 5 and climb a little bit more. Yeah, it's been slow climbs, and I think the times are about to get pretty long as we approach Legend. But yeah, so Pelipper lead. I swap a little bit slow because I don't really have a good option for the Pelipper lead swapping. Probably should have swapped right away on Vigoroth, but they win CMP. And Shadow Machamp comes in. This is exactly what you like to see. they got an extra counter through, so I wouldn't have made it to the second body slam. But luckily, they didn't trust enough in their Pokemon and are throwing this cross chop. Means that I am able to instead take this down with Shadow Victreebel. Shield to keep healthy because this Pelipper is going to be a little bit of an issue. But yeah, hard counter City. It makes sense why they were so willing to bring in their Shadow Machamp Vigoroth, despite the fact that they probably knew that there was a Bastiodon on the back. But we're going to try and play around this little scenario. And it's just no matter how much we wiggle here. They even throw their move, which is nice. But yeah, it's over. I let that through just because I thought I didn't have another Pokemon on the back, and then I ended up wasting a little bit of time by not leaving. But it is what it is. This one was hard counter City, right? This was like, you can beat Pelipper. Actually, I think that's my win condition versus that team. No, because Shadow Machamp destroys everything. There's no win condition. The Alolan Ninetales, you gotta check if they're Powder Snow. Powder Snow, we're gonna go right into Vigoroth. If it's Charm, you stay in and just take it out, because Vigoroth is your weakest Pokemon versus Charm. Alolan Ninetales in this. So they're staying in, which is pretty curious to me, right? It makes sense though. Usually you have a backline that's weak to fighters if you're running something like a Alolan Ninetales lead. Usually the Charm version though, and they come with Lickitung. So guys, this is not a Vigoroth counter. Those licks don't do anything. Counters hit back for super effective, right? Vigoroth is a normal type with fighting damage. Lickitung is a normal type with ghost damage. Oh, it's not the counter. Oh my god. Oh god. Watching this back is frustrating too. Obviously the switch there is into Bastiodon, but I don't know if I missed the button or if my brain just stopped working for a couple seconds. But this is the video's game of catch, right? They switched a Lickitung into a Vigoroth, and then I switched a Victreebel into an Alolan Ninetales. And then they bring the Lickitung in for no reason again. This Lickitung was actually like my MVP, I think. It just allowed me to win back switch, which I wasted, and then allowed me to get a ton of farm. So I'm not sure why they switched out. I think if they just went straight Hydro Pump, I would have lost. And I would need to make a catch. But instead, I'm going to be able to slowly outpace them, right? If they Hydro Pump, or if they don't here, they're not getting to that next Hydro Pump. And we're going to get to that Stone Edge. And somehow still win this game where I just sacrificed my Shadow Victreebel. Look at that Azu in the back. That Shadow Victreebel would have come in very handy for sure. Very handy. Next game versus I Am the Teacher. We have Deoxys Defense lead, so let's see if we can play this a little bit better than last time. We're going to throw a Leaf Blade. We'll see what they chose to do, if they chose to CMP tie or if they chose not to. Yeah, they went up a little bit. So I'm going to shield this. I'm going to try and catch. Oh man, but I switched right away. They went up a little bit, so I should have assumed that they fast move deny. And then I can, at that point, just do one more Razor Leaf and then switch and probably catch it. But I didn't think of that properly. I guess I must have removed the game where I actually played the Deoxys lead well and got the catch on Vigoroth. But in this case, right, this was fine. Umbreon is not the counter to Vigoroth. And the thing is, Deoxys Defense is normally paired with Pokemon that are weak to fighting as well, just because the Psychic typing really covers that. In this case, I know he has a ton of energy on this Deoxys, so going back into Shadow Victreebel is, I guess, essentially instant death for the Shadow Victreebel. So we're going to go and switch a Bastiodon to a Deoxys Defense, and we're just going to get the quit right there. Probably had something in the back that was weak to Shadow Victreebel. But yeah, so if they have energy on the Deoxys, feel free to bring in the Bastiodon again. Those Psycho Boosts hurt a lot more than those counters will on Bastiodon. So we see a Venusaur switch, and this is pretty tough, except it's Razor Leaf Venusaur. So I didn't notice that before I switched. I'm not sure if it would have changed anything. But this game is still pretty hard, because I don't know what's going on with this team at all. Razor Leaf Venusaur is not something I've ever seen. I'm not comfortable guessing what's in the back. It's a Medicham. So another misplay. What I should have done is switch into my Vigoroth. Kind of save my Bastiodon for later. Because there is a Sableye. Because now my Vigoroth is kind of useless against both of those Pokemon. So what I should have done was push it into that Medicham. And just allow it to go down and deal quite a bit of damage. And Bastiodon and Shadow Victreebel can kind of combine to take down the Sableye. Of course, the Sableye is going to get a ton of farm. They actually return my Vigoroth instead of double foul play, which I think is a mistake. But yeah, this Medicham has so much farm from getting all that free farm down on my Bastiodon. It's actually an Ice Punch and a Psychic, so a lot of mistakes this game as well. It's very sad when it's me and not the team letting everything. Noticing a ton of mistakes in this gameplay, and it's probably because of the 30-second switch timer, kind of complicating things for a lot of players. We know there's Shadow Hypno lead. We can beat this one as well. They stay in for a little bit, and I just had a gut feel to shield this one, and it's Psyshock. So good thing I did. Psyshock absolutely shreds. Fortunately, I don't get my Body Slam off on this Hypno, but I'm able to switch right into this Bastiodon and start getting some energy. I'm only a little bit behind. I think I'm one charge move behind them. So they're going to throw this and potentially be able to dip, and it's into their Hypno. So this means they really don't have any response to Bastiodon. And I'm not going to shield this. This isn't a Focus Blast. Yeah, Fire Punch makes sense. That's the I Hate Victreebel moveset. But we see the Azumarill come in, and this is what I talked about earlier. I'm going to switch into my Vigoroth to kind of reset the alignment, and because it's only 30 seconds, I don't even need to shield my Vigoroth. I just need to get these Body Slams off, so that the switch timer's back up. So now, yeah, they go into their Azu, and I'm just going to be able to switch in and take this out. This Azu somehow is so XL. It gets to a move at before it's half health. It's play rough. It has to play rough before it even gets to half health. So if it had Ice Beam, I might have been in some trouble there, because it would have been able to get to 2 Ice Beams versus Victreebel. But I think it did get an extra, or a bubble in there somewhere, right? But a little bit surprising that they brought the Hypno into the Bastiodon. But yeah, so that's the fourth and final set that I decided to show this time. Team works pretty well in the 30-second switch timer meta, just because it operates pretty fast. A lot of these slower Pokemon, like Azu, kind of get taken advantage of. You can switch out before they can get to move, stuff like that. You kind of do want, I think, more of a fast-paced team in this in the 30-second switch timer meta. But yeah, this is the team. There'll be more. This isn't the original Victreebel Deoxys Defense Bastiodon team, right? But adjustments are made to every team to make them better over time, and I'm sure more adjustments will come to this team and this core as well in the near future. So stay tuned for that. I'll put my socials in the description as usual. If you guys have made it this far, thanks for watching. I appreciate it, especially those of you who don't like Razor Leaf and are just watching for gameplay. I appreciate you guys sticking out till the end. So some kind of self-torture you guys are putting yourselves through, and I appreciate it all the more. But yeah, have a good weekend, guys, and thanks for watching.